so deep into it. I mean, being a drummer, you have to have like, 14 million different mics in different places just to get like the best quality sound. You've done such a good job getting things dialed in. I remember just like a year ago, that was all kind of not super new to you, but
oh yeah.
I mean, would you consider it super new?
Yeah, like trying to figure out how to get the drums from like being the drums to getting into the computer. Yeah. It was like, how am I going to do that?
It's time. Right? It's time, and that's the investment. Or what's the meme and the joke that we've heard a lot of times when you're paying the band, you're not paying for the performance that night. You're paying for the hours and the years that have gone into making that performance happen at the level that it's happening, right? Well, studio's the same way. You putting in the time, the experimentation, right? How does this mic work best? Where's the placement going to be? And getting that workflow down, and then getting it to the point where you're efficient at it if you're going to, make money on it.
And, that's something we've talked about and wondered about, you playing bass. Do you have any familiarity with like miking bass amps?
No.
No, just mostly DI?
Yeah, I am.
That level up a little bit more.
I am new to the whole recording thing from the aspect of being the person pressing the buttons and setting the levels and such, right? It's never been, I've done, I can't even, let's see, upward along the lines of like 20 independent releases over the last however many years. I've been playing with various bands, and I've never been the one dialing any of the stuff in, right? And it's only in the last maybe couple years, and Bess was a big influence on this. Actually, I got Reaper. I picked up Reaper when working with her years ago when we were working together. And, slowly over, actually pandemic hit, right? We're all home, right? So what do you got to do? Watch YouTube, right? Yeah. So, and that's what I did with a lot of my time. I watched smoking YouTube videos on how to smoke a good barbecue, right, on a Weber kettle. That was one thing, and then the other one was Reaper videos, right? So you got to eat and you got to record. Yeah. But I'm new to it. I just have a very simple project studio set up at my office at home, and it's just for demos. I don't even have like drums. I do drum in a box. I just have have a little MIDI controller and just click, 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 hit the thing, and then set a loop. And
I think that's probably the only thing I could.
Yeah, it's not.
I could do it, I think.
Right. No, that's definitely a way to get in. That's how a lot of people are doing it now. I mean, especially as a guitarist or a bass player, you have your axe and then like a controller. Just like one of those little pads, and you're ready to go.
It's really if you're for demo purposes, right? And we're not talking anything that I would ever release. It's like for me to, especially with this new project for me, because we have a lot of people all over the place, get a recording, getting a demo done, you throw it up on the shared drive, they download it, they put it into their systems, right? They write their parts, they send them back, we mix them together. We're like, and we can get a lot done before we even get in the same room with one another.
Well, I guess for an official release, yeah, for sure. But it's like Randy McStein came up here with a little drum. What was that? It was just an 808, and he just clicked the button, and then just anything to get content out. We were talking a little bit about that before you came over, just how you have to find that perfect middle ground of a good quality sound, but also just getting the content out. Yeah. Just get it out. You want people to see what you're working on. And same thing with this the book that I'm writing as well. It's you almost, if you're going to self-publish, you want to have your audience with you, helping you create whatever this is. That way they feel like they played a little piece of helping create this thing. Once it's finally released and out in a perfect recording, they just feel a little bit more personable, I think.
Yeah, we wanted to have a really great production, but in the process of, like we were talking about earlier, the editing and like going through and the mixing of it, you're not able to talk to the people and like see what the people are saying about it. And we're kind of going into it a little bit of not the perfect production. We get a chance to hear from the audience and go, oh, maybe you can try doing this or try doing that. I remember like our first video, it was like super close to us, our first podcast.
What, on the desk?
No, it was here.
You put the camera up.
It was there, but we just had it like zoomed in, and like you could only like see like down to like here maybe. It was
like a little head.
It was a little weird.
Just a little head.
And I think Michaela from Caviar and Grits, she had said to me, "You guys should have the camera out so you can see it." And I was like, that's a good point. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, definitely.
Just little floating heads.
Right, and that's why And I don't know if you ever watched like Morning Meds with Jim with Lomo.
I've listened, yeah.
Yeah, he'd have all the executive producers, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like Michaela. She's pretty much an executive producer helping us with the little camera setup here.
It's always good for that extra set of eyes or ears, and
well, and luckily control. With the structure of what we're doing, we have more than enough people to give us feedback. Like this is such a community project that. You get at least one good tip every single time someone comes up here, or you learn a new thing on how to make it a little bit better, a little easier, depending on the instrument that comes up, just everything. Like that 808, I never expected to have to figure that out, but it's like now we know.
And we haven't had some issues with monitoring that we kind of learned through that process as well. Like we were having some issue getting monitoring with vocals, and that way everybody can hear the vocals in the room. And we were able to get through that, and figure out how to use our equipment a little bit better. And it's such an important part of having the community involved with this project kind of every step of the way.
I think it's going to do nothing but speed up the process. So it's like being a year into this, it is pretty amazing I guess just how... And I'm not saying that we're like amazing at this or anything like that, but how good we've gotten over the course of a year is pretty, I think, impressive.
It's the time in the workflow. And now you have an idea before any session starts now, right? You've got a mental image of what needs to happen. I need to do this, I need to do that. It's almost like a little checklist you go through. I don't want to make it sound so prescribed, but it kind of is, right? How do you say, you know what you're doing, you have an idea, and then when new ideas come in, you incorporate those into the workflow, and they get in to produce a desired effect that you want. So that's it. It's time in, right?
Yeah, I've seen you over the last couple of years working with multiple groups.
Yeah,
and you seem to be a lot of times in those side groups, kind of like the director of them, like thinking of like Triple Down. I saw a video of you with Fish.
Oh, and DWAS, and
DWAS, crazy stuff, and now the front and main band. So how's that been, and how do you feel, or is that just kind of like the perspective, or how I'm viewing it?
It's for me. I was always, growing up and being in the scene and being in this area over the last 30 years or so, kind of just one band. And I've always been focused on original music. I've always wanted to write my own stuff and write stuff with other people and give it a go, right? And about 2009, 2010, somewhere in that area, the band that I was in, kind of some players from down here and a couple players from Ithaca. We had this all original called Try Fail Repeat. We had this meteoric rise up. Like when we hit, it was cool. We wrote some really good stuff. It was a little heavier. I would say 90s influenced hard rock type stuff. Great vocalist who's a Broadway musician now. I just went to his wedding actually this past week. His name's Mike Hunter. He was singing and playing some guitar, and then we did 3 EPs in 3 years, and just as soon as the band was drawing well, the interest waned, and that happens, right? That can happen anywhere, and it was we were playing a lot. There were a couple trips to not more than a couple. We play in New York City a lot, and it just became. I was older. My kids now are a little bit. I was a little older than the people in the band. My kids were young at the time, though, and getting back at 3 or 4 in the morning from a New York City show where you barely found a place to park in time to move your gear down 3 blocks, and then you got $20 to split between 4 people. That kind of, you played on a bill with 5 other bands, and you got your 40-minute, your 40-minute slot. on it, and you jammed, and you're lucky if some of your friends showed up. If not, you're playing to the sound guy and the in the door person, right?
But you played in New York City.
Yeah, that's
you played
it's true. And we did have some good shows down there, attendance wise and whatnot. But the 3 in the morning when you're on Route 81 and you're on that last leg and you're that got a little. So I was like, when that band kind of disbanded, I said I'm going freelance. I'm gonna freelance it from here on out. That lasted about 6 months.
About what year was that?
That was about 2010.
Okay.
Beginning of 2010. And but that's the mentality I put on. I was like, let's find other musicians to play with. But then I started forming this idea in my head is like, I'm more interested in the original music in this area, and in Ithaca, and in a little bit of Syracuse, but in Rochester also is just, it's amazing to me. Like a lot of people listen to, they have their modern bands, they have, things that they're listening to on Spotify and whatnot. I'm like a local music fan, a regional music fan. That's where I am. Like before I started playing with the Blind Spots, I was a huge fan of the band. It's freaking incredible band, right? You go to watch their productions, watch the performance, everything else, right? Before I got asked to audition for the Gunpoets in 2012, I was a fan of the band. I had the album. My friend Mike Hunter was just mentioning was playing drums. That's how they got my name, being that I'm from down here, and just producing some great stuff. You want to look at the powerhouses from Ithaca scene, right? Sim Redmond band's been around, they've been around a long time, but they're OG, right? Yeah. Right. And, they're not doing so much new music, but they'll still draw 400, 500 people at a show.
I saw they just had a show like Friday night or something.
Yeah. And it's because they're just so good. And they are really, you want to think of Ithaca music culture, that's them. You had bands like Big Mean Sound Machine when they were up. They just touring nationally, doing things beyond the area. Jim Cotta is another band. They took a little bit of time off, but now they're back on the road killing it, and they're playing theaters, right? They're pro level bands. So you have that. You come down to the Binghamton way, a little bit less on the original side, but it always seems to have its pockets. And I think you can say, of the names that got out over the years, Yoke is definitely one. Yeah. Solomo's original group there, and then Driftwood's been around 15 years now, I think, something along those lines.
I just saw an old pic that Joe Kohler posted the other day with their MySpace info on there.
Yeah. So that's funny, and so they've been around long enough to do that transition from the MySpace to the Facebooks. But they're that's you're talking pro level touring, pro level band, right? Sure. Pro level albums. This is industry recognition, right? And now we have our share of cover bands, but your previous project there, Junkyard Heights, is doing great stuff, and they're cranking out great music.
Some of the best music. That I do have to say, as far as like the original tunes that we would do, it always sucked because the shows that we were playing, like we had to have like 50% covers.
Yeah,
like that was the deal. So you learn how to kind of interweave them, but it was always, when I had the most energy when we were playing, is always our originals. I mean, if you own a little piece of that, it's so much easier to make like a great performance and show that you're interested in what this is. But when I'm playing, Jim Buffett or whatever song that I have to play inside of this casino, I'm just like, God.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
And that is it, right? We're artists, right? We are, right? And some people, and I have nothing, I love cover bands. I love going out to watch a great cover. I'm a huge Reckless Marcy fan. Yeah. Not only the guy's awesome, and I've known, them for a long time, they just do it so well, right? It's just a polished show. It is a good show. It's highly entertaining, and they're great players. But I'm with you. Like for me, for Woo as an artist, I have to have that creative mode. So going back to the freelance thing, that lasted about 6 months. That's it. I got a call from a guy in Sydney. He played with a band called Tempest. So Tempest is a longtime Celtic rock band. They're on Magna Carta Records. He toured with them for like 2.5 years. His wife's a professor at Oneonta, and they settled in that area. He got a hold of my name. So this is a Berkeley cat, graduate, really good guitar player, had his own solo stuff. He was like, hey, I heard you're freelancing it, because I told John Konazowicz, I don't know if you knew that, but there's a whole story behind that. But I told him, and then I said, John, just spread the word. I'm just kind of looking for freelance gigs focused on original music. So I got into that, jammed with them a couple times, did a couple shows with them, and that same year, so I ended up joining that band. That same year, I think your most recent guest, Randy McStein, was looking for a bass player for his original stuff that he was about to release his first Lo-Fi Resistance album. And he had talked to John, and then he came and scouted me out at a gig with One Click Culture, was a band I was playing with, and that's how our relationship got started back there, because I'm quite a bit older than he is. I think I got 15 or 16 years on him, and so I always heard his name, right? But we'd never crossed paths in musically before. And then when he was like, I'm looking for a live bass player for my original stuff to start playing out, he sent me it over, and I was just like, in my head, knowing the stuff, I was like, oh, probably, Gary Moore, blues bass rock, that kind of stuff. No, this stuff, I heard this and it freaking floored me. I was just like, holy, the level of musicality that went into that first recording was just like mind blowing. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. Yeah. Oh, I'm totally in.
It was like a match made right there.
And it was incredible. I've learned so much from him over the 13 years or whatever we've been hanging out and gigging and such. I ended up playing with him, and then he had his own trajectory, I'm sure, that he went over, but that kind of started the whole, oh, this freelance thing is cool, and doing it for original artists is even cooler. So I kind of almost started thinking, at the time, poor man's Pino Palladino, right? I can't play like Pino. No one can. Pino's freaking amazing and one of the top dogs in the world, but look who he plays with. Look at who that guy is supported, right? All different genres. Then he has his own thing on the side. I'm like, that's how you do it. I mean, to be musically fulfilled, right? I have a lot of interests style-wise too. So did that for a couple of years on and off, and then the fateful call for me was the email out of the blue from Gunpoets, and they had just released their second album. They had started drawing huge. I already heard the first album, and I was like, this is some really, really cool stuff. And I got that email from Dan, the band leader, and this would be 2012, I think, like summer 2012. And I was like, oh, audition? Hell yeah. I said, hell, I was like back, fuck yeah, I'm going to audition for the band. And then I put kind of like my focus on it. Like, I'm not going to let anybody take this audition. So if there's other bass players auditioning, I'm going to freaking smoke them. There's not going to be any, I'm not going to give them any reason to not hire me into this band. Because they were doing cool stuff. So,
dude, I love that mindset.
Yeah,
that's so sweet.
Manifest it, man.
Yeah. That's it, right? Though they feel like, I'm not going to let someone take this from me.
Right.
Yeah.
If it's going to be, they're going to be not more prepared than I am.
You got me all pumped up,
Hey,
dude. I'm jamming right now.
I don't want to come off in it, because I make jokes about my age all the time, because I play with a lot younger people, and I play with and it's funny because I don't feel that. I still rock out as much as I can, but that's one of the things that I try to bring to everything that I do is the preparedness and the polish, and I would never want to, especially an original artist here. They have a creation, they have a sound, they have a mindset. This is what they've put together. This is what my artistic and musical vision is, and I look at it as, how can I help them fulfill that live as a bass player?
Again, another phenomenal mindset. I mean, this is their heart. This is their soul. Their everything that they've created. It's like, you want to help the project as a whole, not think of it in an egotistical way.
And they're being very vulnerable, letting you into their world.
Their world.
They're like, here's, like, I remember when I first started playing with Bess, and like getting all of the tracks, and being like, wow, like this is it, and I really need to make sure I'm practicing this. I'm getting prepared for the next rehearsal and putting a best foot forward, so that way we can create that. And got into it a little bit about that with Randy on our last episode. He was asking about like my fulfillment, and I feel it's really great being able to play with two original bands with amazing, front women. I mean, with Bess, Michaela, Ayana. and supporting them as vocalists is so much fun. And Bess and Michaela being those songwriters, to be a part of that is like you said, it's fulfilling.
It's fulfilling,
yeah.
right? Yeah. and that's it. And you and I are a little bit like that. Hey, you're a guitarist, you're the lead guy. He's out front already, but it's the rhythm section. Right. As the rhythm section guys, we just want to lay back and just provide exactly what is needed, no more, no less.
It's also very cool. It's like you can talk to Randy. Randy has always been the front guy. He's been the amazing guitar player, awesome vocalist, just in the front. But he can still have that conversation because he's also an unbelievable drummer. He's an unbelievable. So he's able to have that conversation with you like that. He's such a he's such a versatile musician. I think we also talked a little bit about Devin. Yeah. Like knowing where to sit, knowing when to pull back, it's like he's a professional at the end of the day. Yeah. It is cool, and I'm not. Like this is still new to me. So finding a way to sit in properly and not always be the guy out front, like that's it. You hit a little bit of an insecurity of mine, which is always me. I don't ever want to be that annoying guy who's just always trying to fill empty space.
And I'm only saying that in jest.
I know.
I've seen you play. You're a fantastic player.
Thank you
so
much.
Yeah, so that is just a more of a, because I'm playing guitar right now too, but I don't do any leads. Actually, on the song we'll do today, I'll do the lead on, but it's slow. It's slow, so Wu can pick it. A little different when you're.
But again, knowing where to sit. It's like some solos don't have to be fast. Like you don't have to fill every single beat. Like you don't have to hit every single note. And just cram as many notes into there as possible. I noticed that like watching my old playing, even just from a couple years ago, where I'm just like, why are you playing so many notes? There's no reason to have that many notes inside of this. Another reason why I like recording with Kevin is we get to kind of chop things up and section it out and put space where space is needed. And he's a professional, so he knows. This is Kevin Ham that I'm speaking about. Just for anyone who doesn't know, the bass player in Junkyard Heights.
He's so funny.
He's great.
He's a great player too.
He's an unbelievable bass player.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for decades, and he's really, really good at mastering, mixing, doing all that stuff. So he's like as a mentor to me when I'm writing a solo or something like that. I need someone to be like, no, don't do that. That sounds like crap. And I'm just not. I guess I don't have the decades of experience yet, but I'll get it eventually. It's just finding that space,
and it's having the awareness that it's still, I got to leave the ears open. I got to leave and be open to other input, and that's an important aspect too. And where we are creators, sometimes you fall in love with your own stuff, and that can be a good thing, and it can be a detrimental thing. Yes. If you can't look at it objectively. It's funny, Randy and I talk about demo love, right? You write a demo and you're like, have this whole thing demoed up, and you're like, oh yeah, I like this, and then you can't, that's it, that's what you see, that's what you hear, and then any change to it is going to be like alien or foreign. You're like, oh, I don't know if I like that much. Well, I don't know if it's like, or it just sounds different. Randy's one of the artists that I've seen that can demo something fully up and go and just take it in another complete other direction. I'm like, I wish I could do that. I wish I had that, be able to just compartmentalize. Yeah, that one sounds like that, but you know what? I'm going to take these same chords and I'm going to do something completely different.
I think for me, it's like if I write something halfway decent and I record it and I put it down there, I'm like, this is it. Yeah. Finally, I've created something great. And then, like, I think Randy's probably so good. He's just like, yeah, I could create something great in 2.5 seconds. Throw it away. Not a big deal. Me, I'm like, no, I got to hold on to that for dear life.
I am that way as well. Like, so, and there's a difference between writing songs and then I get hired to do. I've done a lot of recording for other artists too, which I have a lot of fulfillment for because I love writing bass lines. That's how I got together with Bess when I worked with Bess for a year and a half. I'd seen her out, same thing. Loved her songs.
You gonna redo that?
Some time.
Song.
Okay.
Oh, what the?
We'll just time at the camera. Sorry about that.
Heard her saw her as a solo artist. Heard this, and I was like, even watching her solo performance, I could hear bass lines in my head. I could hear counter melody, counterpoint. I could hear she writes in 2-chord, 3-chord progressions, and they really match up with her vocal melodies very well, and that leads. other instrumentation and the arrangements to carry the chordal and that functional harmony behind it and really lead from chord to chord, right? And bass is meant to do that. That's what we do. We tie the rhythm and the harmony together with what we play. And that was an extremely great to just take her stuff, and she's a bass player also, a very good bass player herself, so she's got that musical ear, and kind of taking it from the solo singer-songwriter stuff up into a full band thing. Incredibly fulfilling to do that. Devin Myers, I did her Silver Line album. Cooper Castelline was on drums for that. Cooper and I laid that down over, I think, 2 days, did that. Westcott played on like 3 or 4 tracks too. He did upright on that, but that was another just incredibly fulfilling stuff. I mean, Devin is not only a fantastic singer and songwriter and guitarist, the way she writes tunes, her lyrics, very musical, a lot of musical depth there. And so writing, bass parts for that, again, for me, it's just like I might not have written the song, but I got to create something that has hopefully helped the song. It was just a wonderful project to do. Nice. I can't wait for Devin to start playing again. Yeah. Get out and start playing. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. And even like going back to some of like the not finding the space and playing a little bit too much, because joining Caviar and Grits in 2019, that was the first original band I'd ever played with, and that was after about like a 3-year hiatus from playing, and previously playing with cover bands. And when I was playing with these cover bands, I was like 18, 19, and like, just fills after every, measure, you know what I mean? Just constantly like throwing fills on there. It's ridiculous. And
I love the way you said that's exactly the way I look at my old stuff. I'm like, so stupid. Like, it's just so ridiculous, like, man. It's too much.
Yeah, it's like yesterday. I played yesterday with just a bass drum, snare drum, and floor tom, where when I was 18, there was no way I was going to
You wanted the whole
cymbals, options,
cowbell.
Yeah.
Cowbell.
All the miscellaneous percussion I can have. Where now it's like, oh, my back is kind of hurting, and it's just, and it's also figuring out how to do more with less.
With less,
and creating the space, and coming from one original band with Caviar and Grits where it's a little bit more pocket, and going to Bess and like, all right, well, I'm already playing with this original band. This is how I do it. Trying to do that and learning, oh no, that's not how this works. Right? Listen to what the singer is doing and find the space. And when I went there and I like simplified everything, we were able to kind of go to the next level with the drums and start to actually create. It almost seems like the drums are busy now, but there's also all of this space. It's a lot of fun.
I think I said it on one of the last podcasts, maybe, but if I didn't, when I went to go see you guys, I went to go see you play with Bess at North Brewery, it's the best I've ever heard you play. The best I've ever heard you play.
Which year?
Because when you opened.
Okay. Yeah, you guys.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you're on point.
Oh my goodness, dude, you were on fire.
It was good.
Absolutely on fire. I'm gonna gas your head up. It was so good, and it was just really amazing to see. I'm so glad that I was able to have Lex there, see you do that just in your zone. It was really cool.
Yeah, that place is, there's something special about playing in there. It's and you guys know that as musicians, like, you play the best when the people are engaged and people want, like, when you're playing at grassroots with Gunpoets, like when that energy is electric, you know what I mean? It's like midnight.
You feed off of it, and it gets that's right. So we may be artists, but we're also humans, right? Mm-hmm. We want that human experience also, and that's kind of almost the selfish part of being a musician is that's the greatest buzz in the world, isn't it? Right? When you have that connection with a whole bunch of people with the stuff that you're creating out of you.
So the best gig that I think I've ever played personally was at Sunny Hill. Sunny Hill is this campground about 2.5 hours away or so, and just feeding off what you were saying by the energy of the crowd is so important. I've always known that, but I didn't know that to this extent. I had just a pocket of people in front of me who were just loving every single note I would play. They would you could see that they were feeding off of it, and it was gassing me up, so I'm having a great time. But genuinely, that was probably the best show that I've ever had. There's like a cool little picture of me like reaching out to him. It's a really, really awesome feeling.
So that is that connection, and it's as an original band in this area, or being an original musician in this area, it can be hit or miss, right? You can sometimes the audience, if it hasn't grown beyond your family and friends, which is where it always starts, right? And you haven't picked up those others, you can have some pretty dead shows, right? Especially as original act. In that makes it the soul sucking shows. Mm-hmm. But if you have one or two people there that are hanging on everything that you're playing, and they're not there, drunk or making asses of themselves or trying to make an ass of you, right? They're there listening to what you're playing and taking it in. Then it doesn't matter.
It makes it worth it. It makes that 2.5 hour drive, and just loading all your gear in, and just like God,
and that connection.
This person pissing you off, your boss is pissing you off, and then you have that moment, and you're just like, okay,
all right,
this is why.
I remember seeing this was actually like my bachelor party, seeing you with Triple Down at Callahan's, and the place was dead, and it was 2021, so it's
I was hanging on every note though. I was digging it.
We should chat on that too, because not on that particular thing, but the scene and how the scene has evolved.
For sure, I really want to talk about that.
Yeah,
because you talking about always being a local music fan. Growing up, I had no idea there was this local music scene of all of these original acts. It wasn't until meeting and playing with Caviar and Grits, playing with Kid Bass, and then the pandemic, and I was searching these bands. I didn't know who Driftwood was, I didn't know who Milkweed was, or Adam Ate the Apple, and learning about those like local bands, and that's when I stumbled upon you and seeing videos of you playing with Bess, that Jeff had posted, or other videos, and I was like, oh, this dude is nuts. Like, there's like a video of y'all playing at Ransom Steel, and the three of it's like in the front you see you, Joey, and Bess just like going nuts. You know what I mean?
We opened. That was St. Patrick's Day. That was St. Patrick's Day gig opening for Donna the Buffalo at Ransom Steel. I remember that gig, and the reason I remember that gig was not only it was electric. Someone put it up on archive.org or whatever. Someone live recorded did a room recording, and I do know that video. We were playing Stealing Home.
Yes. Yep.
And it was the end jam on that. And then as soon as that was over, I hopped in my car and drove up to the dock to go and play the Gunpoets show that night. So I had two shows. Yeah. I got off the stage. I was like, I gotta go, I gotta run, and ran up there. I think through Spectrums, I think opened for us, and then so I had two mobbed shows.
How was that second show? So like after leaving a show with that energy, did that just carry over into the next show?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
People who come out, and this is now 2018, so you're talking a little bit a while ago. I don't know if the Gunpoets could draw that in a club anymore, but there were 300 plus people there at that one. I don't know if we could do that anymore. We've hit more of the kind of hometown band, playing more of the festivals, the downtown concert series and stuff like that. Haven't been focusing too much in these last few years, especially since pandemic, on club shows. And that's a different thing. It's a different type of thing, and we're not playing out that often anymore. But it's still, the shows that we still get to play are still awesome, and it's still a lot of fun. Those guys are some of the closest friends I've made in music. 13 years with them here. 11 years with them, and I'm the third bass player, but I'm by far the longest tenured one. And that band's offered me as a non-full-time, I don't know how you categorize it, non-full-time semi-pro, maybe. I don't know if that even really. I always think professional is you're paying taxes on your income, which I do. I claim all my music income. I pay taxes on it, so that kind of puts you in the pro thing, doesn't
IRS?
it? Yeah. Well,
get out of here.
I got my accountant said one thing: if I can look your name up in the paper, the IRS can look your name up. This was 20 years ago, right? So now they could just go online if they. I mean,
just boop, boop.
Yep. There you go. Okay, what, you're telling me you're not getting paid for all that? Now, are they going to chase a small dude from Southern Tier New York? Probably not. But I would never want to roll a dice on an audit or anything like that. So just frickin' report it. That's what I do. Anyway. So
a little bit of advice here from Woo.
Yeah, I get it. Old man stuff
from us.
hashtag old man stuff. Yeah, to me, it's not worth
fatherly
it.
advice.
Love it. I literally just texted my tax person the other day. I completely forgot about it. So I have to do a late thing. I have to do the whole. I'm like, I completely. My head is my ADHD head is just running all over the place. And I'm like, oh wait, there's like stuff I could go to jail for if I don't do. So let's do this.
They're not going to send you to jail, but they'll fine the shit out of you.
Let's
get that money.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure.
And the penalties, but
who's to say I remember to pay the fine? Then I go to jail.
Right. Yeah, jail's not good. But the Poets have afforded me something that I never thought I'd have as a local guy, as a local musician, and that's playing original music, all original music, and having the support of an actual fan base that loves your stuff. And by the time when they called me, I never thought I'd ever get that, right? I was just like, I'd been doing it for years already, and we'd scrape together money for an album, and we'd play the clubs, and we'd be one of 5 bands, and you'd be happy if 20 people showed up to watch the gig, and that would be a good night, or 50 people at downtown Quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Or when other clubs were open, and we don't have a lot of those, so we should talk about that also.
Yes.
I never thought I'd have that experience, and then I get into them, and I think when I joined them, my first show with them was a downtown concert series, and it was on the Commons, right? And it was mobbed. There was just people filled up both sides, couldn't see the end. Yeah, and I was just like, oh. This can actually happen with a local band. Nice, It's so it's been that's been good because again that connection, right? That having that connection, having the people vibe with you with that kind of music, sure, with your stuff.
We felt that at Porch Fest, especially just this last year. We play right on like. I think it's 37 College, Dave and Anissa's.
Oh, yeah.
The
shout
best
out Dave
corner.
and Anissa.
Yeah,
we love that porch.
You guys rock.
And yeah, that's just perfect right across from Rec Park.
Yep.
So you get everybody like that's there in the pit, but then you also have, people out on the side. And this last year was nuts. It was like, whoa. Especially, some of the other acts that are playing, and at the same time you always get a little worried, oh man, hopefully we can get like a decent crowd. So-and-so's playing, a couple blocks away. But I think that's what makes it fun, going into some of the, I guess there's not so many options for music venues around here. Being such an Ithaca-based player, I mean, what do you see as the successes over there as far as the venues and how the bands are booking there?
Yeah, so this is just my observations, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. They have the same somewhat of a struggle and lack of venues as well that we do. I mean, they do have some stalwarts, right? They have Deep Dive has opened back up. And TJ's a pro, and he's obviously done pro touring. He's done big things, and has an idea of how the industry works. And look at the acts that he has brought in, and they're bringing in and have a very good model, right? Very professional model, which is great. And then some of the shows are really, really, really well attended. You have the Range, I think, is good, but then you have the smaller venues, the Downstairs, which used to be Lot 10 or one of those. There's upstairs and downstairs, yeah, and that was the Lot 10 kind of thing there. And there's I know the Bike Bar squeezes some things in. Bike Bar reminds me of Callahan's because when it gets packed, it is all asses and elbows, right? Barley Corn, since Johnny Mac bought it. And I like to think of it as restoring it to its glory, because that was a place, just a dive bar in a town in the middle of nowhere, but you knew if you were walking on Friday or Saturday night, you were going to catch a fantastic music act. Didn't matter who they were, didn't matter if you knew them or not, you were going to be entertained because the band playing is going to be awesome. That's his involvement as both a musician playing in the area. He did some touring, but he was big involvement with grassroots, and for a decade or so, again, he has that mental model, right? We talked about that workflow. He knows what it takes to, and this is going to sound sterile, make the brand, the Barleycorn brand, the North Brewery brand that says, if I go there, I might not know this band.
Chills over here, Mike.
Yeah.
But they are awesome.
Yeah.
I know the music's going to be great. And what Josh and what Zach have done and promoted over there in the last year, I'm new to it. You guys have been in there longer than I have. I'm just discovering that. I don't know who I went over. Who was I talking with? Oh, Paul Shotwell, because Shotwell knows Zach. And he started telling me North Brew, and I had never heard it. It had been open 10 years. I'm not a microbrew person. And then they decided, in the absence of Cyber Cafe, in the closing downs of a lot of the other places to play, and Bundy's I love the annex there. It's a vibey place and all that, but you got to do everything, kind of bring everything yourself in.
You
which
gotta
is
have
cool.
the right bill for that, for that room.
Because you're bringing your own people in.
Exactly.
You gotta have a handful of people. That's what Moses has said right out of the gate. You gotta have at least 3 acts coming in there.
Yeah.
At least if you're gonna have a night, have 3 people come in, then you're bringing a bunch of different audiences.
Yeah, because the big thing with that spot is it's more of like a younger space. I guess like you would say like the punk band is kind of pulled into those areas. And that draws really great crowds, and a lot of times where I've seen bands working with those, I guess you'd call them like the house bands in a way, like they're the bands that like that's their spot, that's their home base, like the Barleycorn is for some of us.
Yeah. That Barleycorn show that we just played with Front and Main was my first show down in the Southern Tier in almost 2 years.
Wow.
I'd just been playing and I am actually trying to play less. Trying to play less shows. Pandemic taught me one thing. I love my wife, and I really enjoy being at home, and I love my kids, and now they're going all into college. I have 3. I have 3. My 2 boys and a girl, and the boys are in college, and my daughter's
Get out of here.
Yeah.
You look like you're 39.
Like, what do you want? Come on, man. All right. I wasn't going to say this because I've been people probably sick of hearing me say this, but I just, for me, it's self-deprecating humor, but it's my quirky sense of humor. No, I just turned 50 2 weeks ago.
You look great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I hit 80, it'll just be overnight. I'll get the Manchu. I'll be bald, but my kung fu skills will be like major. I'll be like who was in. I'll be able to stand on the sword like they did in Kill Bill. But anyway, it's. I've been doing more of that stuff. You want to talk about segue into like maybe Maddie stuff. So I've known Maddie for a long time. The Gunpoets and Blind Spots are contemporaries. I think they actually formed the bands the same year. Oh. Maddie's been a guest on Gunpoet albums. Dan and Josh have guested on a couple of her singles. There's just there's a tightness there with the 2 bands and friends. Over the course of the 15 years they've been around. Maddie did 2 solo albums during pandemic, and then she wanted to pull together slightly different bands, right? As artists, maybe you have different players, you have different things, and finally, and I joke, finally got the call from Maddie to go and do some stuff with her. And I was like, and when she sent me the email or the text or whatever it was, she was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about pulling together a band to do my solo stuff." Yes, I don't even need to hear stuff. I'm like, yes, I'm in. But I don't care what date it is. I don't know whatever it is. But you want to talk about preparedness. We had 4 rehearsals going up to. She booked the Hangar Theater in Ithaca, and Maddie doesn't do anything small, so full production, full for production, full camera shoot, full live recorded the whole thing, all tracked. Alex Perialis was running the board of the recording, and then it was John Ryan's crew running the sound. I had a stage brought in, the whole thing, multimedia. She doesn't do anything small, and it's awesome. So
it's a show.
The show sold out a week before the event, and so she starts gathering together. Sam Fishman, right? She asked me to play. She got DeWass to play guitar. Of course, Suave was her husband partner playing guitar, and then she brought in like the OG singers of Ithaca, so Jen Midoff from Sim Redmond Band, and then Bronwyn Exter, solo artist, as backup vocalist, and then got Sam Lupowitz to come in and play keys. So she got this big whole band. We had 4 rehearsals going up for basically 3 sets, 2 of originals, so 1 album, then the next album, then we did some cool covers at the 3rd set. And this is a beautiful thing. Like, everyone who showed up that first day, we could have played that out live. Wow. And it's not an ego statement. It's the level of preparedness that every musician who she called, because in my head, oh, that's Maddie Walsh. She just asked me. There's so many other bass players she could go and ask. She asked me to do this. That's an honor. I would never waste her time. I'd never embarrass her, and I'd never embarrass myself. But I think of that way with other artists that I work with. That's the mindset that I get, and I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to come in and do what you need me to do. And everybody who showed up there, too, because we hit those first songs, the vocals were spot on. Guitars were spot on. Everyone knew the song. There was like no one messed up the arrangement, no one messed up anything else. So with that kind of level of concentration, that kind of level of again just getting ready is awesome. And you're just sitting there smiling the whole time, going, "Oh yeah, this is fun. this is fun."
I swear you have the best mindset. This is it's. I feel like, I don't know, maybe an unusual. What do you think in your experience? I think that mindset is very unusual. I think there's a lot of unorganizedness in music in general. I mean, it's part of the art. It's part of the.
We are artists, right? Sometimes we can be that way. Yeah.
But holy smokes, like that. That is how you have fun doing it. When you don't have to stress. Like, oh, is this time gonna work?
Right.
The confidence to go from one section to the next. Intro, your part, second part, bridge, outro, whatever it is. Having that as tight as possible makes it fun.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, my best way of preparing myself for situations is just always playing with different people as much as I can.
It stretches you.
Yeah.
You get out of the familiar ground, and the more that you're pushed in unfamiliar ground, right, the more holes that you can kind of fill.
Yeah. Because I always get on myself about just workshopping myself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just get in there, throw the metronome on, work out, some fills and some patterns, which is fun. I don't do enough of it, but I'm having so much fun doing this because one of my, I feel like that purpose of myself right now as a musician is supporting people's vision, and having my creativeness shine where it needs to in that space.
Oh, there's no doubt. Brian and I were standing behind you for the first set, because we were outside just listening, and you could see all the stick work, all the little accents, all the ear candy that doesn't step on anything, but just enhances it so much. Listen to the interplay between you and Lomo. The Lomo's OG. That's like when I was coming up,
he knows exactly where to be.
He's OG. Like when I was coming up, when I was in my late teens, early 20s in college in this area, LaMonica was the name. Mark Sedlock was the name. Those were the 2 bass players. Those were the 2 guys that you were like, dude, those guys are fucking pro. They are freaking phenomenal players. They're doing really cool stuff. There was another guy a little bit older than them, Steve Strope. He played in. He's out in LA now. I think he's done big things with like hot rod modifications for like cars or something like that. He's got a big company out there doing something. He was another just phenomenal bass player that was in several different bands in this area at that time, and that was, I remember, as a older teen, younger 20s, that those are the guys you're like, yeah, you got to catch out as a bass player, right? Yeah. Got to see them. They're OG. And a lot of respect for their work and their level of play.
Yeah, Lomo, he's such a player.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just such a player. I've talked about this with people all the time. Like whenever I'm a little bit worried about timing or where I'm at, Lomo's timing is crazy, and he's so groovy and he knows where to be, and it makes it it's almost like a cheat code, playing with Lomo.
Yeah.
It's when you hook up at that rhythm again, the bridge between the harmony and the rhythm and where the bass is sitting. It's a conductor's point. You said that leading groups, right? It's almost the natural conductor's point. Look what Westcott does in all of his bands, right? I mean, he's the quarterback.
Yeah.
He's calling. And it's.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I played with Jim like I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times, something like that. Just little tiny things here and there, whether it's an open mic or at a party or something like that. But when he came up here and did Back to Black, he really was like conducting that whole entire thing. He brought great energy. You could see him in the
video.
Oh yeah. You could see him like giving me like a little cue because I was a goofball. Talk about being prepared. I literally didn't know I was gonna play that song until I got here.
Oh,
and I'm like, or like the day before, I'm like, I guess I have to learn this song. I saw the bill and I'm like, okay, we have Chris playing guitar. Okay, all right, so I'm not needed in this, and I'm like, this was like one of the first like real recordings, so we hadn't like had a set thing. Anyways, thank God for Jim being there because he just was able to conduct it and get my ass on track. And I mean, just again, the vibe, the overall energy that he had. He's like, all right, fist bumps, everyone. Yep. And we're like, this is going to be the one because Jim gave us a fist bump. This is it. Just automatic great energy. Yeah. Love playing with him.
That's and that comes from experience too. It's personality, experience, it's expertise, it's the musicality, right? It's when you find people like that to work with, you hold on to them with both hands, and you're like, can we work more, please?
Don't leave.
Yeah, there's so many people around here. It's great. I love how we're able to do this, and just watching you. In the studio with the front and main band and putting them together, seeing some of the people that I don't necessarily know, but I've seen, and I'm like, yo, those, like, for instance, Ashley Ickes, I don't know her.
Holy cow.
But I played after her at Grassroots. She was with a cellist, and just insane.
She is insanely talented.
Right, just so freaking good. And I'm like, whoa.
Another level.
We got we got Mary Tukes, you know what I mean? We got Ashley there. And then I see Smales, who was my music teacher in high school, and I'm just like, what? No joke.
That was Westcott.
What is he doing?
I think he's still teaching.
Is he kicking around? Man, he was the coolest.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys, where'd you guys go to high school?
Binghamton.
Oh, you both went to Binghamton. Okay, that's where you okay.
Well, we became friends in middle school.
Okay.
We hated each other.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we had like a little thing going on.
Right.
I don't know. I still to this day do not know what it was.
I don't know.
But we just kind of knew that we didn't like each other until we got into the same class. I'm like, oh wait, this is the same dude. Like he likes Rush. He likes all the bands I like. I'm like, no one else in school likes all this stuff. I'm like, this is my guy.
We were just like we were just.
That is awesome.
We were just like, I was just too much of a wise guy, and so is he. And we didn't. Like we were like stepping on each other's toes, and then
this guy ain't gonna wise guy me,
right? And then it turned out like we could just join forces and like really break down teachers.
See, when you join forces, you control that much better.
Yes, exactly. It's like that teacher has to deal with us in 2 different periods.
Yeah. Nice.
So funny.
Those long-time friendships are the best.
Yeah, it's our eighth grade was a wild year for us. We were wild guys, and our 8th grade science teacher, I don't know if you know Corley Graham.
Mm-mm.
She's
God bless her. God bless her.
Yeah, she dates Earl Walker, and you just see them out together, and she's such a she's so sweet to us, and it's like she almost doesn't remember how bad we were.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, why is she so nice to us?
Or she's seen so much stuff in her career.
That's it. That was it. It was Moses Liam. I had you guys like 2 years ago. It was the same. You had different names, Rob and whatever, but
probably way worse.
Yeah. I was gonna say now I could only imagine some of these kids are out of pocket. They are nuts. We'll have to ask her how they are.
Yeah,
lately
for sure. We'll get her on.
She'll be like, God, I wish you guys were back.
I was make a comment on the long time friendships like that are if you have even just one, it is. I just went down to a friend's wedding in Manhattan or Brooklyn. He was in Brooklyn. On my way home, stopped in Westchester, saw my best friend since kindergarten. So we've 45 years we've known each other, and it's like the same thing. It's like we could be teenagers again. We could be 10 again when we go out and hang.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of shenanigans, except we're just a little older, a little grayer, and have kids, married. But those are the grounding things, the foundational things in life, I think, that are great. So that's awesome.
Yeah. What I love about those relationships is you always seem to pick up where you left off.
Yep.
I mean, there were times where Liam and we didn't talk for a couple years after high school.
And then
long time.
Then you get back together.
We'd run into each other.
The same shenanigans, right? The same stuff,
You're
right?
still drinking Bud Light.
Yep.
Me too.
Yeah, shoot a text. Hey, what are you up to? And it's like any time we could hang out,
Yeah, that's killer.
Yeah, it wasn't up until I think you had stopped. I don't know. We started hanging out again a lot more while you were working construction and just trying to get together a little bit more.
You had your accident.
Yeah, I had my accident in 2016. And Moses was a great friend through that. I had a lot of really good friends, but even after an accident, you see a lot of people come out of the woodwork and a lot of people just disappear. Yeah. It is what it is. It's a part of it. And it's like I totally understand. It's like, what are you gonna have 800 million? Like, even I can't manage to have that many friendships. But anyways, there's been a handful of friends that stick around. Obviously, Moses being one of them. And Moses was one of the reasons why I got back out playing.
Nice.
I had taken years off. I think rightfully so, to get better after my accident. I was just focused on that. And it wasn't until a little bit before the pandemic I had started playing guitar a little bit more, and then Moses has been throwing elbows at me come on, let's get out to Callahan's, go to an open mic, go to Deep Cuts, and that's when I started really, really enjoying playing out again. I was freaking terrified. I'm like, this is a whole different thing. I'm comfortable out in public, but it was still kind of a new thing, being in a wheelchair and then performing. That's not something you see all that much. And I'm like, am I going to get judged? Am I going to, you have all this stuff going on in your head and you realize none of that is the situation. But yeah, I got to get out there, and Moses is the guy who got me out there.
I think the only thing people see are the screaming guitar licks that you crank out, man. So
back then it was still pretty rusty.
Well, what I like about him too is and it's fine regardless of it, but people just hear him playing guitar, and you're like, oh wow, that's a really good guitar player. Huh? And then you look over, and it's like, this guy's in a wheelchair. He could have any excuse to not do anything, to not be here, to not be playing, to just kind of be like, screw it, I'm in this wheelchair and I'm stuck, and I'm not going to do anything. And I think that adds to it. Even though you don't play guitar with your feet unless you're doing some pedals, it's so motivating to see somebody working on their craft no matter what. And especially for me, because there was that bit of distance after graduation. I was so focused on working, and
you had to.
Yeah.
It's like my dad.
Too.
I was working as well. I had moved out as soon as I could.
Because you were doing sales over there at the automotive spot.
Yeah, I was in car sales for a long time. But
then it was your grandpa who had grandma or your grandpa that told me I was working at Remlix at the time, and they were there, and they had told me about the accident. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Yeah, we hadn't spoken in a few months, and not for any bad reason.
Right.
No.
And I was just like, what? And I was like, probably the next day, 2 days later, I was like, it was funny. I was working in the area, and I got over there, and it was fucking rough.
It's rough. It's tough. I speak a lot about just how hard it is for the people around you. After you get into an accident like that, it's like, okay, this what is this situation going to look like? There's so many unknown things. After you become paralyzed, you're like, okay, we don't know what he's going to be capable of. The doctors don't know what he's going to be capable of. You really don't know until you're 2 years after your accident what your life is going to look like. So it's not just you after an accident like that is affected by this. It's everyone around you. It's tough. It's tough to see. So I empathize a lot with people, but having close friends is probably the best thing. Your support system is the most important thing. Having friends around you supporting you and what you want to do. So Moses freaking picked up the slack for sure on that aspect.
It's like you say, though, going to the shows, that first few shows, it's your friends and your family.
Yeah.
Those are the people that count.
Yeah.
So much. And that's why, and I've always thought about that whenever I have the means to help somebody, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether somebody needs help moving or, because I've been in those situations myself where hey, I'm in this situation. Is it cool if I have some of my stuff at your place for a month? You know what I mean? I've been there, And a lot of times you find you have friends that are really this like crazy support system for you.
That's what it is. We've been saying this, right? Yeah. It's the connection, right? Yeah. It's that human connection, right? Whether we do it primarily via our music or what we would prefer to do it, that's our medium for that connection. But obviously, it exists on outside of that as well.
And that's why we're doing this, to give our friends an opportunity to get in and sit down. Maybe they don't have the means of making this type of video or recording anything.
It's tough getting good content.
It is. It is, and we were touching on this at the beginning. Is the scene, and so this is a lot of and trust me, I know this for just trying to create as much content and all that kind of stuff. And I've never got into podcasting or doing like this, but there's a lot of work that goes into this. So props to you guys, because I know that, because you're gonna have to sit back and edit all this and stream it together and make it look pro, because that's what it all looks like. And kudos to you for saying, I'm not just gonna throw stuff out there. It's gonna look good. It's gonna look good because that is part of the presentation. That's part of the gig.
It's the reason why it's taken us so long, is because we're like, we don't want to throw junk out.
Yeah, it's it's roll up the sleeves and do it, and no one's paying you, so it's just that's a very hard part too. But that's part of this, what makes this scene awesome. When I was coming up, it always seemed like the bands were in competition with each other, and then somewhere along the line that kind of switched. Now, I love it when it's great when your friends and family come out to shows, right? To local shows. But how do you feel when another musician comes out from another band to come and watch you?
Oh, the best.
It's the greatest freaking feeling in the world. It is the greatest feeling in the world. And it's not an ego stroke. It's not anything. It's like, damn, I appreciate that a lot.
You know how much work, how little time there is in the day when you're crafting something. Like, that person's doing the same thing that I'm doing. I'm so busy, yet this person still found the time to come out and watch me. That means a lot.
It means an absolute ton, and it gets you here. And then if it's especially if it's players that you haven't seen in a while because of that, because you're doing this and you're friends and you've worked with them before and everything like that, and they come out to your show. You're like, that's
it makes me think about the first time I saw you play live was with Triple Down over at Ransom Steel. Next to Kin had opened for you at that show. And I'd only really saw videos of you on YouTube and may have connected on Facebook, but I wanted to meet you. And so I was like, I was telling my wife, I was like, I'm only gonna listen to a couple songs, and then I gotta meet Mike. He's playing over here. And I get up there and I shake your hand, and I'll never forget after you said, I just made a new friend here, Moses. He's going to be playing with his band Caviar and Grits tomorrow at the Glen. And I'm just like, what? I'm just like, wow. You know what I mean? And that support and that love is really there. And that's what drew me so much. Is I was away from the music for a few years, and then going to Callahan's and meeting all these hitters. And everybody's like, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Like, you're, whatever.
It's a community, right? Yeah. And we support each other. Hopefully as much as the audiences that we're trying to grow, right, and cultivate and really get into our stuff and give them and entertain them and make them feel good for a night, right? All those cliche things that are just true, but being able to come and do this, sit here with you guys and get to know each other a little bit better has been awesome. So I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
coming.
It's a great conversation.
And then going out and watching shows. I'm a huge fan of live music too. I love going out and watching tunes. I go out to watch as many shows as I can. Yeah. That balance between everything else. In life, I'll drive up an hour away or something to go see if it's a local show that I really want to get into, because I'm just as much of a fan as I am a player.
Yeah,
I love watching music executed. You guys were slamming last night, and then Brian and I were talking, because I know the Barleycorn pretty well. I'm like, 9:30, 10 is bewitching hour at the Barleycorn. It always has been. That is when it's either going to be dead or it's going to just fill the fuck up. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you got a show, and you guys started getting that whole thing started filling in, and I'm like, all right, yep. Caviar and Grit's going to have a good night. So
that was a good time.
Yeah, Barleycorn's a lot of fun, and again, props to Johnny Mac for really cultivating that scene. You go back to Zach and Joshua, they're cultivating that scene at it's a risk on their parts, right? What's their primary business, right? You want to get a little sterile here. What's their primary business? It's to sell their product. Right. It's not music. It's to sell their product. So when they take a chance to bring that stuff in, not scare away the regulars who may not be music fans or whatever, right? We've heard this before, right? We've all been doing this long enough. You heard it before, right? Yeah.
Walking with a bass drum, people are like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. What's going on here? And then they start bitching because I don't want to hear it because I come and get my beer here every night or whatever. Yeah. And that's cultivating a scene. That is supporting a scene. And you got, again, grateful that there are venue owners that are willing to do that and have that vision to do that. I haven't been now to a show at North that hasn't had really good attendance.
Yeah. No, neither have I.
Because they have a built-in crowd, and then the band who's playing are bringing their friends and fans, right? A portion of the show, but you start adding the two together.
It's tough for me in a wheelchair. Like, I can't even move. I can't go anywhere. But I'll still come. Right. Like, it's still amazing. It's a great time.
I went to see the Grown Ups at the North Brew. This was like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was there.
I missed that one. So bummed.
That was nuts.
That was asses to elbows. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on now. I was like, these guys are doing it. Like, and then talk about a band that is just putting on an incredible show.
Mega tight.
And I'm just getting introduced to them, which is what I love. I mean, I know the name has been around, and I know they've gone through a couple. They had a principal guy move out of town, right?
Yeah,
Kit, I think. Yeah,
he was so good.
Yeah.
And but then they Chris came in, I think, right? Is that
they had Chris?
Oh, they had Chris.
They brought Reeve in as the bass player.
Yeah, Reeve. Oh, dude, he's slamming bass player.
It's funny when they used to play. Kit, Chris, and Ollie would pass around the bass.
Yeah, which is cool to see. Yeah, that was really neat.
Yeah, depending on the tune, they never had like a locked-in bass player. Yeah. And then when Kit moved, then they actually brought in like a full-time bass player. Okay. And Ollie is really like the lead singer
now.
Unless Alyssa comes up,
and then they got oh, wow.
They've adapted so well and just still grown, like kept momentum for that project. Right. It's been very cool to see.
Yeah, they're good, but I see that in Caviar and Grits. I look how that band has built up, right? It was Michaela, and then I think Lomo joined, and then
Lomo and I joined around the same time, and in the beginning it was like Michaela and Taze Yannick.
Yeah.
And then, we played out as a 4-piece maybe twice because it was 2020. And then we were a 3-piece for a while. We worked on a couple basement records. Really, when we worked on Ticket to Flavor Town, that was just a 3-piece. We had, Lomo produced that record and had a lot of great people included on it. I mean, like Tyson was involved with that record, Nate Calzatoni, Ayana, but a little bit before the album release, that's when things just kicked off. 21 was crazy because we were this 3-piece band, just hanging out all the time, rehearsing all the time, getting super tight, getting comfortable with one another, and then Ayana joins the fold, and a month later Tyson joins, and then a month later Kohler's there, and it's like, whoa.
Tyson's OG in this area too, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I met him in the late 90s, at Barleycorn, so we've got a lot of history at that place. We were talking a little bit last night.
Nice.
But I remember when the first time that I had seen everyone come together. I think we were at the Barleycorn, and then who was playing saxophone out of nowhere?
Was it Rob?
Might have been.
Weinberger?
I'm like, there's 19 people up here at this point, but I'm like, holy crap, this all works so well. It just was. I think one of the best caviar and grit shows that I've ever seen at Barleycorn, just in this small little bar. It was really cool to see.
Front and Main and Caviar and Grit should team up and do a show.
We should definitely make that happen.
Make it an event.
Make that a big event.
Find a place we can get it hosted and make an event out of it.
That's cake.
That would be really fun. Yeah.
What about Otsunengo?
we've been wanting to do something with that.
We can make it happen. I'll give you Liz's number. We can.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you familiar with the?
Do they have like a band shell or something like that, or a stage, or?
They have a beautiful stage there. But you can rent that space out. It's easy.
It's huge. Like you could. How many hundred people can fit on that lawn?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like 400 or 500 people.
At
easy.
least,
I think we had somewhere around like 400 people when Junkyard Heights played there. There was a lot of people.
Yeah, that would be fun to maybe do something like either there, or even the right indoor venue.
Yeah.
I mean, one space we've been wanting to look into is like the Firehouse stage.
Now, yeah, that is pretty cool. What's the capacity there though?
No idea.
Yeah,
it might be a little
and that's again, I don't. Am I saying this on camera? Capacity is one of the things. Owego has a great community theater that rents out their stage, but it's 155 seats, and so you either got to charge, because what I think what people don't understand is, like, you're talking, this kind of show we set up our own show, the overhead is
you got like two 6-piece bands.
It's $1,000 for your production,
right?
Minimum. Right up front,
right?
For all that, to rent the stage, to get the lights, to get the people don't understand that. So then when you have 150, when you're limited to 155 seats, now I got to charge $20, $25 a ticket. Right. Is that really a price point people want to pay? You hope, you hope, but we should definitely team up. I think actually the styles would be very cool.
I agree. Y'all are soulful. Like what I've been hearing and getting to see you and Paul out at the North Brew, very soulful.
Thanks. That's a lot of his vocals. That's a lot of just the way he sings. That's like kind of him. And it's funny how that whole thing came together. I think the other people are going to be getting here soon.
Like any
minute.
Wrap it up soon.
We've known each other for a while. He's friends with my kids. During pandemic, we were all over at my house a lot, just hanging out that summer. And towards the end of 2020, Cooper Casterline, Paul and I were just like, we're bored out of our minds. Cooper had all his gear up at his folks' place, which is only about 15 minutes from me, and we're just like, all right, we're going to get together once a week, and the goal is within 3 to 4 hours, write one song from scratch and demo it up. That was the goal. We went 7 weeks and demoed up 7 songs from scratch. Someone would bring in either a chord progression, or you'd open up the iPhone, get something out, and we build it. Paul would write lyrics right on the spot. We would just, Coop would play, program the drums in. We'd put a little keys down, put a little guitar, put a little bass. And the first 4 songs that were recorded for Front and Main were actually left over from those sessions 2 years ago. And the whole thing with Paul, Cooper's real busy. He's on tour with Jim Cotta. He's running from a house down with them. He's also sitting with them. He's playing a couple other bands. So he didn't really have time to come in and work with us on this and continue it. But Paul and I were like, I was like, Triple Down was on a little break. Unfortunately, Brian had a pretty bad accident with his arm, and is just getting back to being able to play. And he's playing. He's on his way back, and we're talking about the Triple Down album that is now 1.5 years overdue, because we were going to record it and his arm went out. But anyway, we was talking to Paul. I was like, man, I just want to do rock and roll. I don't want to do hard rock. I don't want to do the neo soul thing. I don't want to do the the jam band thing. I want to do rock and roll, just rock and roll, like Stones, like rolling some blues based rock and roll, And we rediscovered some of those tracks, and we were like, okay, yeah, we should finish these. These are strong enough. We don't hate them. Okay, don't hate these. Let's finish them. And that really was the starting point for the whole Front and Main thing. And
gotta let them ferment sometimes.
Yeah.
Go back to them and see what you've got.
And see what we got. And then we started writing new stuff, and we're like, okay, all right.
You get a little bit more.
We're liking this, and then choosing the players. It was like, okay, who stylistically in our heads is going to fit kind of the vision that we wanted for the music. And I had just worked with Ashley. She had just done a sub gig with the Blind Spots at this showcase we did up for colleges in Syracuse. But she sat in for one gig, and I had never played with her. I'd heard of her, of course, and I'd never played with her. And I was sitting there just like, oh my God. such feel, such pocket, such precision, but not sterile. So I texted her after. I was like, hey, I got these like songs. I'm gonna be going in a studio. Would you be interested in doing some session work?
Love it.
And she was all in. And talk about preparedness. We only rehearsed once for that first session as a full band. Everything else was done remotely. So we got together just one time to kind of brush things off. But I knew the other players. Yeah. She came in. She had all her notes. She had it all charted out. She had everything out. And then she had notes where she was like, I think we should do this here. I think it would sound better. I'm like, sold. Yeah. Done. Wow. Yes. Yeah. That's musicality. That's coming in and kind of bringing your experiences in and enhancing something and making it
can be tough
better.
to do that as a drummer, to like talk about those things, and for her to come out and just that's awesome.
And then so we recorded those, and then I got hooked into Jeff Tripoli, who's also a pro drummer, pro tourer. So he's out of Syracuse. Okay. He played with the Town Pants for a long time.
Name's so familiar.
Yeah, he's done a lot. He's and again, stylistically, when I started looking at stuff, I was like, oh, he fits very well. And where he hooked me also as a drummer is I sent him some demos, and he's got his own recording thing set up. So he actually multi-tracked real drum recordings back and sent them back to these demos. I'm like, he put real drums on them instead of MIDI. I'm like,
that's why I started recording. Yeah. Was so that if I ever get demo tracks, I can put live drums on it and send it back. But before we roll up,
I don't know. I told Mary, Jake, and actually Brian's coming too. We'll have 4 guitars. It'll be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
I brought my baritone. Because I'm like, I got to figure out. I knew that we were gonna have at least 3 guitar players, so I'm like, I have to find somewhere to sit where there's not gonna be, 19 guitars or 19 places in the same wavelength. So I'm just like,
with no keyboards, we'll have one of the guitars do the keyboard part. There's a pulsating. There's a pulsating. Sam used the Wurlitzer on this one, and there's a nice just 8th note pattern that he does on the chords. I think Brian knows them. It's a very sparse guitar song. It's not meant to have a lot of, have a lot of fill in it. So I actually think with the depth of 4 guitars, I think it's gonna sound pretty freaking cool.
I'm excited.
It's gonna be something new.
So shows that you have coming up. I want to make sure that you hit those and all that.
Okay, so next we are at Front and Main's at Ithaca Fest on Saturday, June 3rd. That's going to be a very cool night because we go on at around 4:45. After us is Through Spectrums, another really good Ithaca band, and then Blind Spots play after them to close out Saturday night. And I will be closing out Friday night at Ithaca Fest with Gunpoets. Then next Front and Main show is going to be our CD release party on June 24th at Atomic Tom's, and Kid Bess is going to be playing with us. Awesome. And so we'll have our CDs by then, 6-song EP. And then after that, we're doing the Rec Park. Harper and Stantz Rec Park Music Fest. Jim Rayan had us on. Yes, love it. Love that.
By the way, I think I'm going to be able to hit that one because I don't think I'm going to be in Colorado. I think we're doing it the next week. I think we got to play around with it, but that'll be like my birthday.
That's a birthday present.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'll be super jammed about that. But anyways.
And then end of August we're hitting North. End of August, we're hitting North Brewery.
Full band?
Yeah, full band.
Sweet, nice.
And then I am just starting to talk. I just got a couple emails from people. It's nice when people email you and you're like a brand new band. You're like, someone's watching all the social media posts I'm putting out. Someone's actually watching. Yay! You have no idea, right? But at a couple looking to fill up fall, and we want to really balance. It's new music, right? And we have to obviously give it time to get out and see if people, can vibe with it and such. So we're not going to, we're looking to do every 3 to 4 weeks, one show every 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Awesome. Pace it out a little bit.
Well, awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely have your information with the podcast. And I mean, if any of those venue owners are watching and are interested in a good old rock band fall, definitely make sure they reach out and get into your DMs. Or a nice thing too is actually recently we had somebody reach out to me, and they needed an opener, and we had recently had like Sandra on, and I was like, I think that'll be perfect, and able to line up a gig like that. So really, kind of one of the purposes of doing this is like trying to help each other get more gigs.
Yeah, helping us book gigs for people and stuff. Yeah. But anyways, please subscribe, put the little bell on, do all that.
Even I know how to do that.
Yeah. No excuses.
No excuses, right?
Also, guys, send us your flyers and stuff like that. What we're trying to do is have a week before your show, just DM us your flyer, and we're gonna try to toss it up on the story. We got to pick like a set day that we're gonna do that. That way, people can just go, hey, I wonder what's going on this weekend in the area, and then they can check our story and figure it out. So keep an eye out if you're looking for local music as well.
Probably like Wednesday, Thursday-ish.
I think you're probably right on the money there. But anyways, thank you so much, guys. This is
a lot.
great.
Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it, man. It was awesome
so
to hang.
much fun, and can't wait to jam together.
Yeah, right on.
See you guys next time.
Word.